Assalamu alaikum friends, welcome to lecture 3 of SBL. The topic is leadership and organizational culture. This is the last lecture under leadership, that is section A of your SBL syllabus. So in my first two lectures I have already covered the leadership, qualities of leadership, styles of different leaderships, and in the second lecture I have covered the ethics, right? Professional ethics, public interest, and this video I'm going to cover when an organization changes, what are the disadvantages and how to overcome the resistance when someone wants to change. So for that reason, when we have to change, two very important things is, one is culture of the organization, because changing culture is not easy, and second, the leadership, because you need the right leadership, especially when you're changing. This part of this comes in your last section of your syllabus, that is section I would I don't remember the exact letter. I think it's H, strategic change management, right? But because leadership part, uh, culture and leadership, this is there in section A of your SBL syllabus, that is under your leadership. That's why I thought to include it under section A, part of it. Okay, in your Kaplan textbook, it is chapter 24, but not the whole chapter 24, part of it, two sections only, which is relevant for this lecture. So let's start. And this is a small video, unlike my previous lecture, lecture number 2, which was very big. I think it was almost around 4 hours, but this one is comparatively very small. Okay, so in here we are going to focus on cultural web. Now this is a model. In SBL you're going to go through different types of model. You need to study those models to answer SBL questions. This is your first model that I'm introducing you. Before this, we haven't covered any model in my lecture 1 and 2. So in this lecture, lecture number 3, this is the first model you're going to go through. Cultural web, to assess your culture of an organization. That's why in bracket I wrote it's a model. Whenever it's a model, I will write in bracket it's a model. Now, how do one differentiate between a model and just when something is not a model? It's very simple. Words, they will have technical jargons like cultural, web, pestle, Porter's five forces, SWOT analysis, BCG matrix, ANSOF matrix. All these are models, okay, that you need to go through. We'll be going through one after the other, one by one. Okay, in some videos we'll be having models, in some video we won't be covering the model. Okay, I cannot say that in every video we are going to cover models. It's not possible, because for some answers you don't need a model. Okay, things like in finance or in audit or in IT stuff you don't need, but for risk, for assessing the culture of an organization, yes, you do have models. For strategy, yes. So cultural web is the model which we are going to go through. Next, why is culture important? Again, is a very short thing, not will not go in depth. Advantages and disadvantages of having a strong culture. Yes, one needs to know that. And influences on culture. Leadership styles in dealing with resistance to change. As I told you in the beginning of the video, when someone wants to change, right, you'll be facing some resistance from the staff. How to overcome that? You need a appropriate leadership styles for that. We are going to cover that. When to use each style, you should know that not every circumstances will demand you the one leadership style. Accordingly, you have to change. Okay. I think there are 6 or 7 leadership styles which we are going to go through. Now, starting with cultural web. So, cultural web is a model to study organizational culture. Whenever a requirement asks you in exam, assess the organization culture or what is the culture of this organization, right? In short, they are telling you to use cultural web. Okay, sometimes they tell you to use a particular model, sometimes they don't tell you. Most of the time, they never refer to a model. They never tell you use this model. You have to understand that from the word assess the organization culture or organization and background environment, you have to understand that they are talking about, you have to use cultural web. Even without cultural web also you can answer your question in SBL. Please understand this. Okay, it's not must that you have to use a model, but Using a model is good. It helps you to structure your answer in SBL. The use of model is to structure your answer. It helps you to write answers. That's the only reason. Okay. That's why we are studying models. So whenever this has a organization culture, use cultural web. It's a tool because there is no other model for assessing organization culture. It is only cultural web, one model only. But sometimes some situations have more than one model also. There you can choose which model to use. Here it's only cultural web. Now, why do we need that? Cultural web to assess organization culture. Because in my lecture one, if you have gone through that, there are two types of leader. One is known as transformational leader, the other one is known as transactional leader. Transactional leader, they just lead when the circumstances are when the situation is stable, it's not dynamic, it does not change. Transformational is when someone has to change and the change is massive, you need to change in an organization, then it is a transformational change. Okay, that means a fundamental change is required there. For that also you need a you need to assess the organization culture. Why? Because when you change, culture also needs to be changed. Culture also needs to be changed. That's why we are studying cultural of the organization through a cultural web. Next, however, any change to organization culture, okay, it's not easy. It's not easy to change organization culture. It's not like your dress that you, if you don't like, you keep on changing. No, culture takes a long time to build. Again, when you have to change, it's very hard to change. We all know that, right? We know that, right? So you will be facing some force, some resistance from the staff. And in this lecture, we are also going to cover that also, how to overcome those resistance from staff. What are the techniques? What are the leadership styles you are going to adopt? Okay, so in this video, it's only from the point of change. Okay, now a change leader needs to examine how this resistance might be overcome. Yes, as a leader, as a change leader, you have to see how you can overcome this resistance. Okay, now cultural web is made up of this 6 elements. You need to study this. This is very important. Okay, and most of the thing of SBL, the good thing is you have already covered in your performance management, that is F5 and your F1, accountant in business. F1, most of the thing you have covered there. Even this cultural web also is covered there. So this shall not be so tough for you to go through again. It's like a revision. Okay, so I can quickly go through this. Number one, stories. Next slide, we are going to give you explanation of each of this element. So don't worry now. Stories is one. So culture is made up of the stories that you hear of an organization. Next, the routines that is followed every day in an organization. Control system of an organization. Organization structure, symbols, and performance structure. Okay, these are the 6 things that any culture is made up of. Right? You need to memorize it. Now, so starting with stories, what does it mean? What are the core beliefs? Okay, what are the stories about your organization mostly about? Whether this organization is a good organization, it's an ethical organization, or it's a fraud, it never gives fair treatment to its staff, or does not give good qualities things to their customer. What is the story? What is it made up of? Is it morely like more positive things, more positive stories, encouraging stories, or negative side? You need to, because culture is made up of that. What is the culture of this an organization? How do you know when you have to see when you have to assess what is the culture of an individual? Let's say, forget about an organization. How do you see? You see how he behaves, right? What are the stories that is told about this person? Okay, what does his friends say about him, right? What does his family say about a person? Then you come to know, okay, this person is good or bad, or whatever the things are. So same for an organization, we have stories that are around the organization. Okay, next, how pervasive are these beliefs through the levels of the organization? How strong is the belief? Suppose they are very ethical. Are they ethical in every level of an organization? You have to see this. What are the stories that are told by the staff at each level? whether they accept bribe, whether they do not. I'm just giving an example, okay, to understand better. So in your exam, how are you going to use this model? You're not going to write stories and then these points. No, you're not going to memorize it like that. No, you just have to know stories, okay, and what it means. You don't have to write my explanation, okay, in your case study, right? That 12 page or 15 page of case study, one case study only. From there, you have to see what does the company stand for, what are the staff telling about it. So all these things makes up stories. So under stories, as a summary, you can write all those stories. This company is like this company was 15 years ago, up to 15 years this company uh, is said to be good to its staff, ethical, blah blah blah. Something will be given in the case study. So you have to use the case study to answer those stories and rituals and control system and all those things. Okay. Now, do stories. So what does the story mostly relate to? Is it your strengths or your weakness? So in the exam, in the case study, you have to find out for those things. Whether they give the strengths of a company or the weakness of a company. This makes up stories. Whether it is more like a failure or a success. Who are the heroes and the villain? No. What norms do the mavericks deviate from? That means you are very individualistic. Okay, you do not conform to norms. You are something totally different from norms. Okay, so are there any stories like that? Maybe you are totally a different type of an organization, totally out of your norm. Maybe you are in a particular industry, and in that industry, these things are there, right? It's visible that these are the things. This is the culture of that sector, but you are totally different. So we have to see for these things. Routines. This is something which is very easy because you can see that. Okay, stories is something which you hear about the organization from other people. It could be from staff, from the customer, from the supplier. Routines is something that you can see, visualize. Okay, visually you can see. Okay, what behavior do routines? So through your daily routine, you can see what are the behavior. Okay, you have to see that if this thing is changed, will it look odd? If certain thing is changed in a behavior. Okay, for example, in an organization, this organization, let's say you are working for an organization and it has a there's a routine that as soon as you enter, okay, you have to give your fingerprint and all those things. It's a routine, daily routine, everyone has to do it. So like that, okay, for security purpose and all. What are the key rituals? What core beliefs do they reflect? There are some key rituals which are followed, which must be followed, and this can be different from organization to organization. Okay, some key rituals that has to be followed. Maybe some organization has this ritual of performing prayer before starting a new project or something in the office, or they will be giving a party for the celebration of a project, anything like that, or some gifts to the staff. Okay, it could be part of a ritual. What do training programs emphasize? When you are giving a training to your employees, what does it emphasize mostly on? These are some part of routine. How easy are these routines to change? Can it be easily changed? Or it's hard to change? Some routines are easy to change. For example, you are doing some stuff which is, let's say, you are replying to email for 1 hour every morning. As soon as you enter the office, your job is to reply email. This, can you change it? I think it's easy to change. It's not very hard that you can say no. You can, yes, you can appoint someone else, maybe, and you can do some more value adding stuff than replying mail. Maybe that you can do it once a week rather than doing it every day and save time and use it somewhere else. And some routines, for example, things like you are a morning person and it's very hard for you to stay awake and complete the leftover tasks. You cannot do most tasks, especially at night, because you're a morning person. So it's hard to change, right? That is a kind of hard, becoming a night person from a morning person. So something like that. Some are hard, some are easy. Next, organizational structure. This is also very easy, but not that easy also again. Because some part you can see, some you cannot from the diagram, that organizational chart you have, right? How mechanic or organic are the structure in my organization? What is the structure? Is it flat or is it not flat. Does it has too many layers or it's very flat? One person is having control over many people. Whether it's formal or informal, what type of communication do you have with your employee? Do structures encourage collaboration or competition? See, through your structure, you can either encourage collaboration, that means everyone is collaborating, they're joining, they're talking to each other, or competition. They might compete against each other. If you're having too many departments, you are basing your rewards based on the sales that each department makes. There will be a competition, right? There'll be it's a clear sign of competition. So things like that. What type of power structure do they support? That means, do one party or one level of managers have too much of power that they can influence, you know, things like that, or is the power equal among all their levels? Next, control system. What is most closely monitored or controlled in my organization? What is that thing which needs to be controlled? It could be anything in an organization. Maybe your IT system, maybe your staff, your knowledge, your talented staff, right? Is emphasis on reward upon how do you control when you have to come? Do you control based on the reward? That means for good things you give reward, or if they make a mistake you give them punishment, you penalize them. What type of control is it? Do they have many controls or few controls? Okay. Are controls related to history or current strategies? Okay. Next, power structure. What are the core beliefs of the leadership in my organization? See, power structure means you can imagine a leader sitting on the top. He's having all the power, and then he delegates it to the subordinates and all those things. So, what are the core belief of that leadership? Who is there? Because whatever the beliefs that leadership has is going to follow down, right? How strongly held are these beliefs? Idealist or pragmatist? Is it very strong? How do you know? How is power distributed in the organization? As I told you, is it decentralized? Everyone has the authority to do their job, or it is centralized? One person having taking all the decision, and others have to follow. What are the main blockages to change? See, sometimes when one stakeholder, one group, or one member, or one particular group of members have a power to make a decision, okay, they might sometimes add as a, they might resist sometimes when you have to change. That's why you have to see whether they are the one who are resisting or not. Power structure matters a lot there in terms of change when you have to change. Symbols. The last. This is very easy. Symbols you can see from their dress, from the jargons, the languages that they use in the place of work, okay? What languages that they particularly use, okay? Jargons, okay? If they IT people, they'll be using technical jargons like IT stuff. IT jargons are there, technical jargons. If they're accountant, they'll be using their own words. If they're scientists or doctors, they'll be using their own things, okay? How internal or accessible are they? Okay, what specs of strategy are highlighted in publicity? See some symbols. That means what strategy? Some strategies are highlighted in public. What strategy you are going to do? Are you more like growing organically, or you are taking acquisition on merger? Right? What status symbol are there? It could be in terms of what do I say? The car that you drive, the phone that you carry, or anything, right? Your social status. Are there particular symbols that denote the organization? Some symbols, some logo must be there. The uniform that you're wearing, maybe. The dress code, right? Things like that. Now, so coming to the next from the cultural web, why is culture important? Okay, because it gives an individual a unique identity. Every organization, every country has different culture or organization or people, right? So because of that differences, it gives each individual a unique identity. You cannot treat all the individuals in the same way. Why? Because they're different culturally. They are different. Their culture is different. That's why it's very important. That's why we are studying culture here, because you are dealing with people over here. When you are leading means what? You have to deal with people mostly. The hardest thing in an organization is to deal with the people. Okay, it gives a unique identity. Next, it gives a community a character of their own. Every community is differentiated according to the culture. There will be some people in a particular group or a community, they'll be having similar culture. People who are having similar culture, they are grouped together and known as a community. They are known as a one community. So every community, there will be several communities, right? In a society, every community has different culture. Have to deal, right? Or they are your stakeholders. It shapes the personality, the way you talk, the way you think depends on the culture, because your culture is the one that is shaping you, right? The languages that you speak, what is your staple food? For some Asian people, mostly it's rice, but for European, it's not rice. Customs, their traditions, the festives that they celebrate. Okay, for example, Japan, Korea. If you see this category of people, they are workaholic, right? They work a lot. They just, I don't know what is that word called, but they sleep very less. Okay, the main goal is that they have to work till they die. Okay, all of them, they keep working. They're very hardworking. But when you come on the other side, Europe, Asia, they're less hardworking. They cannot work like that. Why? Because they feel that they need to balance their work and the home, their personal life. So they look for more leisure, more relaxing activities, and all those things. So those people, you cannot make them 24/7. Okay, they will not be willing to. Even if you give them a high salary package, they will not. Initially, yes, but at one stage, they will not. So that's why culture plays a very important role. Okay, next. Attitude. It develops an attitude culture. Whether you are going to be hardworking or you are going to be lazy, depends on the culture that you come from. Okay. Now, advantages of having a strong culture. What could be the advantages of having a strong culture? Good communication and coordination with the organization. Strong culture, I'm not saying a culture is bad or good. Okay, strong culture does not mean one culture is good over the other. No, I'm not saying that. Every culture has its own benefits and drawbacks. Okay, we're not talking about it. We are talking strong culture means they have a certain belief, they are rooted to that belief, and they are working. Okay, every action that they do is guided by a particular culture that they have. So what are the advantages of it for an organization? We are talking here about that. Okay, it facilitates good communication and coordination. When everyone in an organization have one culture, that is known as strong culture. They're all working towards that culture. In that case, it's very easy to communicate because everyone has same culture, and coordinate also. Okay, you see among your friends, when two people or your friends who are as same religion or nationality as you, it's very easy for you to communicate or in your language or coordinate, because they will understand you better, right, than the friend who is more distant from you in terms of religion and nationality. Same like an organization also. Second, provide a framework for social identity. Yes, we are from this nationality, we are from this community. It gives you an identity, social identity. We are from this organization. Okay, it gives you a sense of belonging. Imagine if you don't have any culture. Okay, no one is associated with anything. Everyone does their own things. Okay, that means we are not belonging to anything. Having one culture, everyone belongs to that culture. Sense of belonging. Third, you don't have to memorize this advantages, just know it. Okay, reduces differences among the members of the organization. Yes, because everyone is having one organization, one culture, no difference. It reduces. Okay, still there will be differences, but that differences will not be so much. Strengthen the dominant values and attitudes. Yes, we have so much of values and attitudes, right? That this is my value. I'll be honest. I'll be straightforward. I'll be ethical when I do my business daily. These are some values that we have, but out of all the values we'll be having some 10, 20 values. There'll be one or two which are very dominant. Okay, so it strengthens that dominant value. Regulate behavior and norms. Yes, how you are going to behave, are you going to be ethical or not? If the culture of an organization is that you have to be ethical, okay, the organization as a whole has to be ethical, you automatically you will behave in an ethical way, right? Everyone, so it regulates your behavior also. Philosophy and values of the organization founder. Yes, it reflects. If an organization is said to be having this culture, automatically someone can figure it out what might be the philosophy or what might be the values of the founder of this organization who have built it with this culture, right? Because culture is something which is carried generation over generation, okay, unless someone comes and tries to change it. But normally it takes a long amount of time for it to change, but usually yes, it carries over years and years. So even if the founder is not there anymore, okay, affect the organization's strategy and ability to respond to change. Very important is this one. The strategies that you're going to have depends on the culture, okay. For example, your culture is to give good quality products to your customer, okay, and your strategy has to be based on having good quality, rather than sacrificing quality and only focusing about cost. No, it cannot be your strategy because it's not going align with your culture. Your culture is to give good quality products to your customer. Your strategy also has to be focusing on quality rather than the cost. Yes, obviously cost you have to minimize, but not that you're compromising on quality. No, that should not be your strategy. And ability to respond to change. Yes, if you're having a strong culture, okay, because everyone is having one culture, so if you have to change, it's easy to change, okay. If the benefits are obviously greater than the drawbacks or not, but we have certain ways on how to respond to that or how to overcome the resistance that we'll be covering later. Now let us go to the disadvantages. We have advantages of having strong culture, there could be disadvantages also, okay. What are the other side of it? Strong cultures are difficult to change. Yes. Why? Because they're deep rooted. It's very difficult to change things which are deep rooted. Everyone follows the same thing. People from top to bottom, everyone is, if they say that we are not accepting bribe, or let's say we accept bribe, it's very hard for them to change to not accepting bribe, because you have to deal with every level. Then it's not just one individual or one level, it's everyone in the organization. It's very deep rooted. Even if it's good or bad, does not matter. Whatever the culture is hard to change. Strong culture, or maybe your culture is okay, good, but you want to change to something better, still it's hard to change because it's deep rooted. Second, what does it mean? Because of strong culture, organization feels that they don't have to learn new skills, or they don't have that desire, because they think they're the best, because everything is working. When everything is working smoothly in line with the current culture that you are having, it's very difficult for organization to persuade them, or they might not have the desire that they have to learn new skills. They don't think so. Let's say if they are working fantastically well with manual system, okay, and now everyone is changing to IT, let's say for example, it's very hard for them to persuade that they have to change to IT, because things are working well for them in manual system. So they are thinking, why should we change to IT system? Things are, because when you change to IT system, it's not easy. Remember, you have to learn new skills, and they don't have the desire to learn new skills. Okay, so it's very hard. Then, strong culture stress inappropriate values. Sometimes your values might not be appropriate for that situation. You might have to change. So having strong culture shows that that value is very important in front of you, but actually it's inappropriate now. Okay, even okay, see, a positive, okay, if it's a positive, the culture, it can enhance the organization, but if it's negative, then what about it? It can have opposite effect, right? Can harm or can destroy the organization. And when two strong cultures come into contact, how? Example through merger, right? Both the organization might be having their own cultures in mergers and acquisition. What happens? Conflicts will arise because this one will not want to change to that one, and that one also will not want to change to this one because they think their culture is the best. Then a strong culture may not be attuned to the environment. Yes, your environment might be totally different now. Maybe this culture was working, let's say 5 years back, but today that culture is not suitable, let's say. Or maybe you might be well ahead of the time, or you might be well behind the time. For example, a strong innovative culture is only appropriate in dynamic shifting environment. Not in all the industries you have to be very innovative. Yes, you have to be innovative, I agree, but some industry you have to be very strongly innovative. Every day you have to come up with new ideas. Why? Because that industry is very dynamic. It changes every day. One example is fashion industry. In fashion industry you have to be very innovative because it keeps on changing every day. What is fashionable today might not be fashionable tomorrow. But some industry, it takes a very long time. So for a long time, even if you're not innovative, you can enjoy the success of your organization, of your product. Okay. One example is food industry. In food industry, you don't have to be so innovative. Okay. Now, main influences on culture. There are some are main, some are not main. Okay. But make sure that you learn all this because it will help you in writing your answers better in your exam. These are some main influences that can have on the culture. Your culture will be different based on this few variables. One is size. How? If your organization is very large, how can you say it's large? It depends on the turnover that you have. There will be a particular threshold, right? Quantitative threshold. You don't need to know that. What is that quantitative threshold? That over this it is considered as medium size enterprise or big size enterprise. You don't have to know all those things. So you just know that in terms of turnover or physical size or employee numbers, if it's a very huge employee, then it is said that that organization is very huge. Okay, when your organization in terms of size is different, culture will be different. Why? Small organization versus a big organization will be having different culture. Let's take a coffee shop, small coffee shop in your local region, and take a Starbucks, or take any other company, different company, not coffee. Just take Apple for example. Their culture and this culture will be totally different. Why? Because it is of their size. How it could be different? In the small size, that coffee shop, the owner is the one who is directly involved, right? There's no layer of the no power structure as such. But in a big organization, there will be so many layers, right? Organizational hierarchy, it's not flat. So all those things. Same way for the other variables. Also, I'm not going to explain one by one. Next is technology. In terms of technology, how technologically advanced an organization is. It could be in terms of product or product process. If technology is in culture, it will matter on your culture. Diversity. How diverse is the company in terms of the product range or geographical location or the different culture of their stakeholders? Culture. Okay. Culture will be influenced in this thing. Age. Okay. People who are matured, people who are young, they have different cultures. Okay. In terms of business, how old is the business or the manager of the business? Because it matters. Culture will be different. Do its strategic level decision makers have experience to draw upon? Okay. People who are old, managers in an organization, what is the difference between an old and a young manager? See, an old manager, when they take some decision at strategic level or whatever level, they have the experience to draw upon. Okay. First of all, they will react based on their experience. And also, obviously, they will try to be more objective, basing their decision on facts and evidences, on documents. While on the other hand, a young person, a fresh graduate, let's say, he's a manager, how is he going to take a decision? Based on what? Because he does not have an experience, 10 years, 5 years, 20 years experience behind to take their decision. How is he going to take? He's going to take decision based on his attitude of mind at that time. If he thinks something is right, he will take it. If he thinks something is wrong, he will not go for that. Spontaneous decisions he will take, very spontaneous. It might not sound rational also. Irrational he might take, or based on subjective, based on his own opinion. Okay, we are not saying he could be right or wrong. Could be either way. But the thing is how they are taking the decision. Why they are taking two different ways when they are thinking, when they are taking the decision, because of the age. Their age is different. So culture is different, right? In different ages. History. Your culture that you are following today might be from your history. If something has worked well in the history, you might have taken it today also. Okay? What type of this thing? Are they willing to learn from their mistake, or are they very stubborn type of person that they never learn from their mistake? Okay? Ownership. Is the organization sole trader or company, partnership? What? Okay, so all these things. These are six influences. These are main influences on a culture. Next, we have other influences also, not so main, but yes, it's better to go through this list as well. Number one, degree of individual initiative. In an organization, are they always encouraged to take their own decision? Do individuals take initiative that they have to take a decision, or the decision is always referred upwards? That means top level only take, bottom level they don't take any decision. Is it like that? What type of culture is it? Second, degree of risk tolerance. Are managers only allowed to follow low risk strategy? How much risk can they tolerate? Depends. If they cannot tolerate so much of risk, they will be going for low risk strategies only. Clarity of direction. Is there any clear focus or clear objective? Any performance expectations from them? Degree of integration between groups. Are different groups or units encouraged to work together or not? Or are they separate from each other? Because if they're separate, there'll be competition. If they're not, then they will cooperate with each other. Okay. What is the communication level? Is it clear? Can the higher level people communicate very easily to the lower level people? Are the managers approvable? Can you approach them when you have any difficulty or anything? All this matters. Reward system. How are the individuals rewarded? What are the performance criteria? Are rewards based on performance criteria? How? Conflict tolerance. See, employees here or there, okay, this is most of the time you will face this thing, okay? They will conflict with each other. They will not be on the same page. What happens? How much can one tolerate each other? The conflict, the difference. How much can one tolerate? Can they tolerate, or there'll be fights, or there'll be some revenge, or what do I say? Right? Things like that. Communication pattern. What is the communication pattern in the organization? Is the hierarchy formal or informal? Formalization of clothing and office layout. Are there strict rule over this? Does everyone wear the same clothes? Or are they allowed to, or they are free to wear their own thing? Kind of people that are employed in an organization, are they taking fresh graduates, young people, or very old people? Okay. Because if they're taking young people, it shows, or graduates, okay, for example, it means they are willing to take a risk. Why? Because young people, they usually take risky they take chances, they take risky decisions and all, because for them they don't have an experience to back upon. They're fresh. Okay. So, but whereas on the other side, if you're taking old, they will take more reasonable, more mature decision based on their experiences and everything. Okay. That means if they're taking old means they're less, they're not the company. What does it say about the company they're taking old? They're less willing to take risk. Okay. They want to take more stable, more mature decisions. Okay. Now, let's come to the leadership styles. When someone resists your staff, there could be so many ways. There could be 6 leadership styles that can work when you have to overcome the resistance. Number one, manipulation and co-optation. Again, this will be explained in the next slide in detail. Okay. From the word you can make it out, right? Manipulation means you manipulate someone. Participation means everyone participates and make a decision. Facilitation and support, you give support to them. Education and communicate, you communicate. Negotiation and power coercion, that means through power you try to force. So more or less you can make out, right? These are the 6 leadership styles. You need to go through this, you need to know it from your exams point of view. Now, what does participation means? They're not same, okay? They're different. Participate means you allow your employees also to participate in the decision making. They also have some say. Okay, ultimate decision is yours, but they can still participate. Because they can participate, this will encourage employees that they have the freedom. It makes them feel valuable, that they also have a say over a decision making. Therefore, they're less likely to resist. Okay, because they can design their own jobs, their own pay, right? Things like that. Next is education communication. You communicate, you tell them why certain things needs to be changed. What could be the benefits of it? Okay, because if you tell them about the benefits over the drawbacks, employees are more likely to go for it, because obviously everyone wants the company to benefit, right, because of a change and all. But if there is no such communication, why would employees feel that they have to change? Because they don't know, they are not aware of it. So you have to make them aware through communication and educate them. Power correction, this is more like strict. You are like forcing that a manager, top level manager, has made the decision and that's it. There is no say over it, no one has anything to do. You just say and everyone has to follow. Okay, is not this is likely to have more disadvantages than advantages. Why? Because no one wants to be forced, right? When you're forced to take a decision, employees is more likely to resist that. But sometimes in some situation it's compulsory that you have to go by this also. It's like more like someone is having an authority over you, formal authority, right? Next, facilitation and support. You support, you counsel, you coach the employees. Why? Because employees, when you tell them about a change, anyone, okay, that is the fear of unknown, all of us have it, right? Whenever we are told to change. Remember when SBL was introduced? That was a big, massive change in ACCA paper, 4-hour paper. Everyone was so scared. We were so feared, right? Then people came, ACCA members, the coach, they were giving us webinars and videos on YouTube. So all this are facilitation and support. They were supporting us. Okay, why? So that we could overcome our fears and anxieties. Okay, when it's normal, right? When any one of us, we feel that we are supported, we are facilitated by someone, we are more ready, more acceptable, right? We want to accept the change. Manipulation and co-optation, what does it mean? It's very easy, you manipulate. Okay, how? Information that you give them is very selective. You decide what information you want to give and what you don't want to give. You're not very open, neither you're very hidden also. You're partially okay, whatever is favorable for you. Okay, you only tell them the benefits of the change. If even if there are 10 drawbacks and 5 benefits, you will be giving them the 5 benefits and you will not talk about the 10 drawbacks. So that's how it's you're manipulating them. Okay, and co-optation, what does it mean? You are only giving access for the key people to make the decision, not everyone, key people. But others think they are also taking a part in it, whereas others you are only giving them selective information, only benefits, that's it. You emphasize on the benefits more than the drawbacks. Again, it has its own drawbacks. Okay, and negotiation, this is more like when two parties they negotiate, they bargain. Mostly when trade unions are there in a company, this is very okay for a negotiation. Okay, several parties are there, they will be having different interest, they negotiate and they come to a certain common point, they compromise and then they come to an agreement. That is the meaning of negotiation. Now, when to use each style, this is the last part of this video before I conclude everything. So education communication, when do you use this, in which situation? When there is a lack of inaccurate information, when staff does not know, they do not have the accurate information why things needs to change. Either they don't have the correct information or they have inaccurate information why change is required. In that case, you have to communicate. communication style will work. If they don't have any information of the benefits, that time you cannot force them. Neither you can tell them to negotiate or anything because they don't know anything. That time you have to work, you have to communicate them, right? Advantages of this is what? They will feel persuaded. See, if you they were unaware, uneducated, let's say. You have educated them, you've communicated with them. Now they'll be more persuaded to change because they have the right information with them. Disadvantages are this is time consuming because you have to communicate each and everyone. Not everyone might agree even after having the information, so it's time consuming because many people will be involved in that process. Participation. This is used when initiators do not have all the information to design the change. That means, as the initiator, you who has to design the change, you do not have the information to change, I mean, to design the change. Okay, and where you feel that others have power over you, they can resist. Okay, that time you involve others because when you involve others, they might help you to design the change as well as they might stop from resisting, right? Advantages again, when you involve someone, participate, they feel that they are committed, so they're more likely to accept the change. Second, the drawback is again this is very time consuming because you might take many people to participate there, and sometimes the change that they are telling you or they are recommending something might be inappropriate. Okay, and it's very hard to say that to tell them no, that this thing is not going to work or this is inappropriate because it might hurt their sentiments and things like that. There are many things like that. Facilitation and support. This is used when resistance comes from adjustment problems. Everything is okay. The only thing is it's hard for them to adjust. That time you give them support. Okay. Advantages is this is best approach for adjustment issue. Any adjustment issue, this is the best thing. Disadvantages is again is time consuming, right? And this could be expensive also. You have to give support to many things, counseling and everything, materials. Okay, and again, even after so much of time and money that you have spent it could still be a failure. Remember, even if you have given the support, they might back off, right? Negotiation, where one group will lose out and has the power to resist. That means one group is very powerful than the other. Negotiation, come to an agreement. Okay. Advantages. This is easy to avoid major resistance. Rather than to go for major resistance, first solve the inside, the minor resistance that is among the two different groups. First solve it. Then major resistance is automatically reduced. Third, again, this is expensive. Okay, negotiation is expensive, could be expensive, yes. They might not sometimes negotiate, no matter what. They might never come to any agreement. So it might be pending like that. So again, it's all those things, right? Manipulation. So manipulation, where other techniques won't work or they are too costly. Other techniques, they might be costly, or where others are not working, you simply manipulate. This is again its advantages are it's inexpensive. When you have to manipulate, do you have to spend anything? No, right? So this could be quick way of overcoming resistance, and it's inexpensive also. Okay. Disadvantages, in the future when they come to know that they were being manipulated, it can lead to bigger problem, right? Explicit and implicit correction. Here, when main focus is on your speed, you need to make a decision immediately. Okay, and you, the one who is changing, has the considerable power. Others in an organization, they do not have so much of power. You as an initiator, you possess considerable amount of power. In that condition, you have the right to, you can make the decision because it's very important. Speed is required that time. So you, it's like you forced, you make a decision and then you tell others that they are supposed to go by it. Advantages is very speed, it's speedy, and any kind of resistance it will overcome. Why? Because you are the one who's making decision and forcing them. They have to they have to comply with it. They have to listen, whether they like it or not. Okay. Second, disadvantages is this is risky because okay, they are listening to you because you have the power, but again, they'll be angry. They'll be angry at you, and they might leave the organization after a certain point of time. They're unhappy. So unsatisfied customer, employee turnover will go up, and all those things. So that's it for organization culture and leadership styles. Now let us summarize everything that I've covered in this video. Okay. So first we went through cultural web. Under that we went through stories, what you hear about the organization from other people outside or inside the organization, the routines and the rituals that is followed. Okay. Some are visible, some are not visible. Organization structure, flat, not flat. Power structure, one group having too much of power or not. Control system, how do you control? Through how do you reward, base your reward on? Whether you punish for the mistake or you reward, you encourage for innovation. Symbols that you carry, maybe the jargon, the languages that you use, the dress that you wear, which that shows your social status and things. We went through importance, advantages and disadvantages of a culture. Okay, strong culture. Then we went through the main influences on culture, starting with size. Different sizes will have different culture, different technology, diversity, age, history, and ownership. Other influences were individual initiative. Are they able to take individual initiative or the bosses takes? Degree of risk tolerance, high risk, low risk. Clarity of direction, no clarity, more clarity. Degree of integration between groups. If they integrated, cooperation. If not, competition. Reward system. How do you reward? Based on performance. Conflict tolerance. Do they bear each other or not? Communication pattern. Is it easy to communicate or not? Is it formal, informal? Formalization of clothing and office layout. Are they very strict over it? Everyone wears the same? Or the boss wears the expensive clothing and the others wear the normal clothing? Kind of people employ junior, old people, young graduates, things like that. Then we move on to the leadership styles. There were 6 leadership styles. Okay, in terms of change management, participation. Employees participate, make a decision. Support, you give support when they have an adjustment issue. Educate, when they're unaware of the change, benefits of the change. Negotiation, when two groups, one might be having a power or another, you negotiate. Power, where you have to make a decision at a short span of time and you have the ultimate power. Manipulation, where you have to make again decision because this is fast and this is inexpensive also. There is no good or bad, okay? There is no thing that this is the best leadership style or not. Everything will work based on the correct circumstances that you use. That's why the next is, when are you going to use each style, under which situation, and also the advantages and disadvantages of each of the 6 styles. So these are the things that we have covered in this lecture. Okay, great news is we have covered all the 3 sections lecture on leadership. That is section A of your SBL syllabus. Now next video, my lecture 4 will be from section B of your syllabus, that is governance. Under governance, we'll be covering agency issue, agency theory, stakeholder, then board of directors, public governance, corporate governance, code of governance, all those things. Okay, so we are over with leadership. Okay, so see you in the next video and do take care.